All right, so let's start with the big story that we are tracking on WION at this hour. The bilateral meeting between Germany's Chancellor Friedrich Merz and the American President Donald Trump started off with a conversation about trade and defense. But what is interesting is that the conversation soon deviated to the brewing rift between Donald Trump and his once staunchly loyal supporter Elon Musk. Now, speaking to a reporter's question, the American president went on a pretty long monologue about Elon Musk's latest attacks on Trump's proposed budget bill. The US president, in fact, called the attacks pretty disappointing and said that he was unsure if they would have a great relationship going forward.
Look, Elon and I had a great relationship. I don't know if we will anymore. I was surprised because you were here. Everybody in this room practically was here as we had a wonderful send-off. He said wonderful things about me. You couldn't have nicer. Said the best things. He's worn the hat. Trump was right about everything. And I am right about the great, big, beautiful bill.
Now, Trump also said that Elon Musk was aware of all the provisions in the proposed big, beautiful bill of Donald Trump, but added that the billionaire was upset, particularly about Trump rejecting the EV mandate.
But I'm very disappointed because Elon knew the inner workings of this bill better than almost anybody sitting here, better than you people. He knew everything about it. He had no problem with it. All of a sudden he had a problem. And he only developed the problem when he found out that we're going to have to cut the EV mandate, because that's billions and billions of dollars. And it really is unfair. We want to have cars of all types. Electric, we want to have electric, but we want to have a gasoline, combustion. We want to have different. We want to have hybrids. We want to have all. We want to be able to sell everything.
Now, the bill proposes the elimination of federal electric vehicle tax credits. The rollback directly impacts Tesla, that sold nearly about 336,000 vehicles in 2025 alone. Now, JP Morgan estimates the loss of these incentives could cost Tesla about $1.2 billion, further straining the company amidst slumping demand and shrinking margins. Now, Elon Musk's once close ties with Donald Trump are now visibly unraveling, with major policy rifts playing out in the public. Now, minutes afterwards, Trump's remarks at the Oval Office, Elon Musk once again posted on Truth social platform X, and the latest post reads, "Slim, beautiful bill for the win." Now, Elon Musk's criticism against the bill comes at an important time after the House of Representatives passed the bill with just one vote last month, and the bill now makes its way to the Senate with more backlash expected. Now, many Republicans are against certain provisions of the bill, and they are hesitant to vote in its favor in the U.S. Congress. All right, and our correspondent Susan Tehrani is, of course, tracking all the developments that are unfolding at this moment in the United States, and she's joining us live from New York. Susan, let's in fact talk about, the sound bites that we heard there where Donald Trump was talking about his once close confidant, Elon Musk. Donald Trump says that Elon Musk knew the details of his one big, beautiful bill, but Musk was pretty quick to respond. He said, "Slim, beautiful bill for the win." How deep is the rift between these two over this budget proposal?
Yeah, so as we heard, and we heard this pretty broadly during this press conference with the new German chancellor, that President Trump was adamant to say that personally Elon Musk doesn't have anything against him, but that President Trump himself was very disappointed in Elon, as you mentioned, considering the fact that he knew the provisions of the bill going into this. But because of his personal interests, after all, he is a business owner, Tesla being the biggest electric vehicle manufacturer here in the United States, and his company's special interest, he's very concerned about those tax credits that are going to go away, the green energy tax credits to Tesla. He was somewhat understanding, but this was the first time he said he was very disappointed in Elon. He made clear that while Elon has been praising him personally, this is about the bill, but he also said, you never know, maybe a criticism to me may come next. He also said, and just to show how important this bill is for the president, his legacy, his second administration going forward, he said, I would have preferred Elon criticize me as opposed to criticizing this bill. And then, of course, he brought up the issue that Elon seems to be disappointed with the White House about who heads NASA. Said Elon proposed someone who was his friend, A Democrat, and President Trump said that I didn't want to go with that person. So, we'll have to wait and see. Elon has said a bill can't be big and beautiful at the same time. There's a certain extent of truth to that.
Right.
But nonetheless, if this bill doesn't go through, taxes are going to rise on the American people. There's going to be no cuts, and the deficit is going to skyrocket.
Interesting. Do continue to stay on with this, Susan. I want you to weigh in on another interesting aspect that was in fact spoken about. Now, Elon Musk, of course, tweeted that he was never shown the bill, and Musk has called Trump's statement to be false. This is which is the tug of war that's going on between Elon Musk and Donald Trump. But in that meeting that was held at the Oval Office between Donald Trump and Frederick Merz, the Russia-Ukraine war also came up for discussions, and something that was very interesting that was said by the American president. Let me in fact quote that to you, Susan, so that you can weigh in on this, where Donald Trump said that it would be better off letting Russia-Ukraine fight for some time before he steps in again to try and progress with the ceasefire talks. What sort of conditions is Donald Trump now looking forward to before he can again push for any kind of a ceasefire between these two nations?
I think he was speaking very frankly. He used the interesting analogy of two children fighting at the playground. And no matter how much you want to get them to stop fighting, they just simply won't listen. And sometimes you just have to let them fight it out for a short while before they actually come to you and try to look for mediation. I think his underlying message was, until there isn't a will by the two sides, he said these two men, according to the president, really hate each other, Putin and Zelensky. He also said later that the analogy he was choosing to use as children at the park were to the soldiers on the battlefield and not necessarily the leaders. But he also said during that meeting, when he was asked by a journalist if he still stands by Ukraine, he said, I do stand by Ukraine. We just recently signed a deal, and I'm going to continue to support Ukraine. But he also said that Vladimir Putin told him that he was going to retaliate against this war. It appears, and he said this again to Mr. Merz, and it seems that Chancellor Merz and Donald Trump seem to be on the same page. They said that this war has to stop. Frederick Merz complimented the president and said if there's one person that can stop it, it would be Donald Trump. But I think the understanding right now is there isn't a will by the two sides, so right. President Trump can't force that. Now, the question is, how is the United States going to proceed? Will we see more sanctions against Russia, that bill that's being drafted in the Senate? Will the United States and President Trump take a harsher stance towards Ukraine and whatnot? Those are the questions that remain. So as of now, it appears that he just seemed to say that I want peace, but until those two don't, then I can't really force them to get peace.
Indeed. Thank you very much, Susan Tehrani, for joining us with all those details there.